I'm Jennifer from Belladonna's Botanicals. I'm going to talk about a controversial topic today. All gnosis is unverified personal gnosis. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Yep, the Grimoire Verum, unverified personal gnosis. Goetia, unverified personal gnosis. Every single grimoire ever, unverified personal gnosis. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk about gnosis. So a lot of people dismiss unverified personal gnosis, or you'll see it commonly abbreviated to UPG. And don't get me wrong, not every bit of gnosis is all that relevant or useful. I mean, I've gotten plenty that I'm just like, all right, well, that's great. I can do with that. Or stuff that's just very personal and I don't share. So, of course, some of this is going to be clouded by ego projection and possible manipulation from malevolent spirits. And if you just watched our previous video on how to use discernment when working with spirits, for more, you can watch that video. When we're working with spirits, now you can reproduce rituals and they may have results. But results may vary, as I like to say. But is that gnosis? How do you verify gnosis? Like, can you verify? Even pick grimoire of choice, modern or from the Middle Ages, and how is that verifiable? I'm waiting. Let me know, because our spiritual experiences are so uniquely attuned to us as individuals. Like, how can you go about proving that that is something that happened, or that spirit said that thing, or that spirit gave you a ritual or whatnot? So there are some ways that you can, I will get to that, evaluate the I guess accuracy of your gnosis or efficacy of your gnosis. So the big thing here is fantasy versus reality. So, and again, go back and watch our discernment video, because that kind of tells you about different, we talk about different ways in which you are working with spirits and how spirits will communicate to you, and how to determine if you're working with, say, Lilith, that is actually Lilith you're working with and not just some malevolent poltergeist or feeder spirit, or unclassified other type of malevolent spirit or energy, or a parasitic entity, or ego projection, or thought forms. So I go into that more in that video. What I wanted to do on this one is focus more on the gnosis aspect of it. Because that doesn't always have to include working with spirits. Like, I get a lot of gnosis just working. I've been working with my higher self a lot over the past, I would say, 6 to maybe 9 or 10 months. So when you're working with anything, whether you are doing divination, whether you're doing direct channeling, any type of mediumship, or psychic development skills, you're going to have information revealed to you. And I've run the gamut with this over the past 25 years or longer. I'm trying to think of, actually probably longer, but because I go back through my old journals that I have and I find things, I'm like, holy crap, did I like, I think everything I needed to know in life I learned in 1991 and then proceeded to forget. So the way you can differentiate between fantasy and reality is looking at the gnosis you get. Are you receiving accurate information that may be new to you? This can be personal. This can be, big picture prophecy kind of stuff. This can be anything. If you're given, magic, like rituals or spells or things to do, are they yielding results? I mean, a lot of the formulations I use or some of the products, some of those came from direct spirit downloads. So if they're working and part of enhancing other people's experiences, my life, etc. Well, do we have some verified gnosis here? Has it moved from personal? There are ways you can verify aspects of gnosis, but I don't think there's ways to. I don't think there's any surefire way to verify across the board gnosis. And it seems to be that we look at books that were written hundreds of years ago, like, well, that's completely accurate and verified and not at all completely, complete BS someone made up while, whatever. So why do we trust that? Why do we trust books written hundreds of years ago as being these fonts of, verified gnosis when they're just unverified gnosis like, the rest of us have, but it's in the Goetia, so now it's canon. Asking the hard questions here. I'm good at that. So a lot of what we do in our working with spirits is self-work. So have you improved as a person? Are you healing? Are you working through the shadow work? Are you becoming a better version of yourself based upon the work? Because I mean, I work a lot of the majority of the work I do is like that with spirits. I'm not like, money please, or bring me love, or curse my enemies and whatnot. Like a lot of the work I do is just me work. It's like stuff to make my life better, me better, because I've seen some shit. Another aspect, if you're getting any kind of predictions or like prophecy kind of stuff from the spirit world, well, time will tell if some of that stuff comes true. And what I alluded to earlier with about past 25 years, I wrote, and there's videos in my occult origin stories series playlist about that and the predictions I make, because basically my almost 25-year-old pissant self was like, because this was all leading up to like the Y2K hysteria and like 2012 Mayan calendar prophecy things. So I was just kind of, I'm going to write my own bullshit book of prophecy. This is like 1998 or 99, and proceeded to like, throw it in a box, move a whole bunch of times and ignore it for the better part of 20 years or almost 25. Well, probably been closer to 20 years at that point. And then I was like, that thing that happened in 2020 when we suddenly had a lot of spare time. And I kind of was like, I started getting back into my spirituality stuff. I'm like, I'm going to find those books and go through them. Yeah, about that. There was quite a few things that have already come to pass, and a few things I was able to figure out what. Because the one thing I wrote about obsessively, and this was something, it was this like plague I called the living death. And I was like, well, no, it wasn't that thing that happened in 2020. That wasn't it. It wasn't, I kind of looked at all because up until 2020, one of my favorite pastimes of bullshit research was researching pandemics and epidemics and disease trajectories and stuff like that for funsies. Now I collect shiny rocks because I needed a less morbid hobby. So I'm like, nothing fit the descriptions of what I was writing with that. And I only made this connection like maybe within the past 6 months, maybe even less, is that what I was writing about and the way I was writing about it was the progression of the opioid crisis, especially with the influx of what trank or xylazine, I think is what it's called, is doing to people. That is exactly how the way I described it. I just kind of called it the living death. It was, they weren't zombies. It wasn't a zombie apocalypse I was writing about. It was something different, but that is how I was writing about it. And it took me, and the opioid crisis isn't anything new. It was just the development of the stuff with the trank and xylazine like literally causing people's like limbs to rot off in the street. That's how I kind of figured that's what I was writing about. I finally put the 2 and 2 together on it. So sometimes it's a little bit of interpretation, like you're like, what? This doesn't make sense until you look at it in a particular through a particular lens. So that was just one. There's many other examples in that particular thing. I don't think I included the part of it being about the opioid crisis in the video because I filmed it. So I filmed the videos about that before I made that discovery. So, my favorite one is messages that make sense in hindsight. The spirit world is great for that. Like, I've had things come through in divination that sometimes like 2 years later I'm like, oh, I get it now. Makes sense. Also discovered back when I was still polyamorous that, oh hell, the spirit world does not understand that at all. Because it's like you're doing a reading on one person, you're getting results for the other person. It's a whole ass thing. So but yeah, it's like sometimes, like how many times I've been like, oh my God, they're my soulmate. But, well, hi, Mooney. We have a special guest joining us tonight. It is, hold on, Moon. Hi, baby girl. You want to sit here? She's like, not really. I'm going to run away now and take a bath because you're gross. Anyways, cats, eh? So that's the one for me, because what I talk about in the previous video about using discernment is, boy howdy, did the spirit world love to teach you lessons. And sometimes when you're like so focused on something right here, not seeing the big picture, they'll point that out to you, or you'll make the connection. Oh, that's what you were trying to get me to see. Oh, I get it now. Okay. Well, now that I'm done paying attention to this thing, I see the thing you were trying to get me to notice. Great. So how does Gnosis move from unverified to verified? I don't know that it ever really does. I think it just evolves. Because there's at some point in time where things just become, if you speak it, it sort of becomes a reality in its own way. Like, how many things do people believe that are just utter crap and aren't true at all? I'm waiting. There's quite a lot of that. Quite a lot of that in mainstream religion as well. And it's always the thing that I find like, I don't know what the right word is for it, but it's like the whole thing with Christianity is like, wasn't Jesus all like teaching about like love? I'm like, y'all are some big ass haters here. Like looking at like how much hate comes out of Christianity, how much death and blood and whatnot has been spilled in the past like 2,000 years. And like how it's tried to it's erased and eradicated other religions. I'm like, wasn't Jesus teaching love and acceptance? You guys are kind of like, you're doing it, not make it make sense, folks. Make it make sense. You're not a loving person if you're coming on my channel, leaving comments telling me to go fucking die. That's not love. That's not teaching. That's not acting in how Jesus would have acted or what Jesus taught. And hi, don't forget, I did go to Catholic school, so I know a couple things here or there. And not for nothing, I have studied a lot of biblical lore, since more so in the past 4 years, because I had to get over being really butthurt about it, a lot of religious trauma. So, yeah, I don't understand, and maybe I'm going down a rabbit hole here. Like, I don't understand why there's so much hate and like authoritarian dominance when it comes to religious perspective. I don't care what you believe. I really don't. Live and let live, and like, don't be a dick about it. Like, don't cause harm to people because your beliefs are different than them. I mean, by all means, defend yourself if it comes to that. But like, I'm not going to, proselytize and tell people they need to, become satanic witchy poos or whatever. I mean, I'm not going to condemn anyone for what they believe. I will condemn the actions if those beliefs lead to um, pretty heinous things, which does happen. But hey, guess what? I predicted 25 years ago that the specifically the church, the Christian church will fall, and I think that's coming sooner than later. So, because hey, I've gotten gnosis on things over the years, so who can tell? Anyways, I digress. That was a little bit of a tangent there, but what I was going to say here is to compare notes and experiences with other practitioners, or even sometimes in the books you read. Like, one of the things, I did a video on this, I think sometime late last year, was about Paimon, King Paimon, and something he revealed to me about developing your own personal pantheons. Because we talk about matron and patron spirits, or I'm path working this and I'm path working that, or I work in this current or this tradition or with this pantheon. And what Paimon was saying was developing your own personal pantheon. And I didn't think much about it until I was reading S. Conley's The Complete Book of Demonology, or not demonology, demonolatry. And she's a chapter in there called Personal Pantheons. I'm like, oh, well, interesting. So there are things like that where you're going to have very similar experiences that line up. And again, does it mean it's, stamp seal of approval, 100% verified gnosis at this point? Because independently we came up with this on our own. Not necessarily. Because we might be the only, there might be only a few people who have gotten this message. How do you prove it? Do you need a majority rule? Do we need to have an election here? What's the process for it? And I think mostly my message of this is stop, like, just throw out the unverified and verified gnosis and looking down your nose at UPG, and just go, gnosis is gnosis. Take it for what it is. Because guess what you can use when determining the viability of gnosis? Your discernment skills. Talked about those in the working with the previous video about this, using discernment with working with spirits. You can use your discernment when it comes to personal gnosis, regardless of who it comes from or when. You can kind of see use your discernment to figure out what's bullshit and what's not. What's just someone, talking out their ass, and what's, a very enriching spiritual experience. And know that things can change. Gnosis can be an ongoing development. Like, I get pieces of things that, like, over years, I'm like, okay, I've got this piece that now fits in here, and we're just missing these ones right now. So sometimes you get parts of the story, sometimes you get the whole story at once. So take it for what it is. And when it comes to your own spiritual experiences, and your own gnosis, by all means, you can compare notes and ask other practitioners. I mean, I gave you the personal pantheons, and when I first started working with Azazel and Belial, I was having these weird experiences with them, and I was talking with a colleague at the time, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that's a very common thing when people work with Belial and Azazels. They do this sort of like junk DNA removal kind of thing." I was like, "Oh, okay," like I had um a similar experiences. So, and I see that when I post video content, people are like, holy crap, I had the same thing happen. So we are hooked into something. Our interpretations may be different to it. There's going to be language barriers. There's going to be things based upon lived experiences. There are going to be things that are different depending on which spirit they're coming from. And it's okay. Because we are bombarded with information every day coming at us from all directions, especially in the digital age. I look at things, I'm like, I can't even, okay, I'm not even, we want accurate personal gnosis when talking spirit work. Can like maybe the news stations like report accurate news and not just talking head opinion piece bullshit? Like I just want to factually know what happened. That's it. This thing happened at this time, at this location. Here's what we know. I don't need a bunch of talking head pundits telling me, this is well, here's the perspective of, the left, and here's this perspective of the right, and here's the perspective of this weird person over here somewhere. So take that as what it is. When it comes to gnosis is gnosis is gnosis, basically. And use your discernment. Like, some people can be absolute bullshit and have amazing gnosis, and some people can be absolute bullshit and more bullshit, and and their bullshit and their gnosis is bullshit. Consider the source. I talk about that a lot. Reputation matters. Like, I don't know, like looking at different occult personalities and stuff like that. Yeah, like some things I'll be like, I'm just gonna take this with a grain of salt. Some are like, yeah, this one thing was good. If I read a book and I get one thing out of it that I can walk away with, even if I hated the book and I'm like, this is garbage, I'm going to, throw it out the window. If you got something out of it, that is fine. And when it comes to spirit work, we're all just trying to figure out the big picture, our role in it. Personally speaking, I don't care if any of my predictions come true or not. I hope most of them don't, because some are pretty freaking bleak. But I'm also not going to run around Chicken Littling and the boy who cried wolf, screaming, the sky is falling every time I get a piece of gnosis that is not so great, actually. Because when it comes to prophecy and things like that, we have to also consider that some things are changeable. It's not set in stone. I may see this thing happening at some point in time in the future, but there are an entire incalculable amount of unforeseen things that can happen that will change the course of that particular prophecy thing from happening. So that said, do what you will with gnosis. If you are learning something from your gnosis, if you feel comfortable sharing that so other people can learn from your gnosis, that's great. Use your discernment. And I guess the last thing there when it comes to discernment is know that, everyone's relationship with the spirit world, the spirits they work with are different. So the gnosis I get from Lucifer might be very different from the gnosis you get from Lucifer. Like, most of my gnosis from Lucifer is just about me specifically. So I don't know how to verify that with anyone that's not me, or at least didn't experience those things. Like, I could say, like, hey, Mom, did this thing happen when I was 5? And my mom could verify that, maybe. But so there's just it's one of those things that gets thrown around so much, and because it's sort of used as it's dismissive in a way, and sometimes that is justified. That there's quite a lot of bullshit out there. I'm not gonna mince words of that, and I'm sure most people don't think their bullshit's bullshit. I mean, my bullshit is probably still bullshit at the end of the day, but gnosis is gnosis is gnosis. And I'm going to end with that. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. Follow us on social media and sign up for our e-newsletter so to keep an idea of what's going on. Smash the notification bell, which may or may not work because algorithms suck. And be sure to check out our memberships. I probably have to update them a little bit, but we do have a lot of support tiers to support developing our content. And, research, any, you know, equipment and crap we use. So if you feel like, you know, you like the channel, you want to support us, love you. Talk to you soon.